What if I told you that the lights going out in your city for just a few hours could trigger an economic collapse that ripples across the entire planet? What if the difference between civilization and chaos is literally the flip of a switch, and that switch is more fragile than you ever imagined? Today, we're diving into the terrifying reality of how interconnected our world really is, and why a seemingly harmless power outage in the wrong place at the wrong time could bring modern society to its knees in ways that would make apocalypse movies look like children's bedtime stories. Prepare yourself for the shocking truth about humanity's most dangerous addiction, electricity. Number 10. A single blackout can erase billions in economic value instantly. Let's start with cold, hard numbers that will make your head spin. According to World Bank research, power outages cost the global economy nearly $300 billion every year. But here's the terrifying part: that's just from routine, predictable outages. When we're talking about unexpected blackouts, the numbers become absolutely devastating. A single day without power in a major economic center can wipe out $1.8 billion in GDP in just 3 months. That's not a typo. One day of darkness can cost more than entire countries produce in a year. Madagascar, one of the world's most outage-prone nations, loses 24% of affected businesses' annual sales just from electrical failure. But here's what makes this truly bizarre: the economic damage doesn't stop when the lights come back on. Every hour of darkness creates a ripple effect that compounds exponentially. Businesses miss deadlines, supply chains break, digital transactions freeze, and trust in infrastructure crumble. It's like economic cancer that spreads long after the initial tumor is removed. The most disturbing fact: we're completely dependent on a system so fragile that a squirrel chewing the wrong wire can cost billions. Number 9. Modern hospitals become death traps in minutes. When the power goes out, hospitals don't just lose convenience, they become potential mass casualty sites. Backup generators? They're designed to last 72 hours maximum, and that's assuming they actually work when needed. Studies show that 25% of hospital generators fail during actual emergencies. But here's the nightmare scenario most people never consider. It's not just life support machines that fail. Modern hospitals are entirely computerized. Patient records, medication databases, surgical scheduling, laboratory equipment, everything disappears the moment power cuts out. Doctors literally forget what medications you're on, what surgeries you've had, what allergies could kill you. In 2003, during the Northeast blackout, hospitals reported dozens of preventable deaths, not from machine failures, but from information blackouts. Nurses couldn't access patient charts, pharmacies couldn't verify prescriptions, surgeons lost access to digital imaging mid-operation. The truly terrifying part: modern medicine has become so dependent on electricity that many doctors under 40 have never learned how to practice medicine without computers. When the lights go out, they're not just losing power, they're losing the ability to save lives. Number 8. Nuclear power plants can't just turn off safely. Here's a nightmare that keeps nuclear engineers awake at night. When a nuclear power plant loses external electrical power, it doesn't just shut down safely. It enters emergency mode, and if the backup systems fail, you're looking at potential meltdown within hours. Nuclear plants need continuous electrical power to run cooling systems even after they're shut down. The radioactive fuel keeps generating heat for months after the reactor stops producing power. No electricity means no cooling pump. No cooling pumps means rising temperatures. Rising temperatures mean potential core breach. Fukushima wasn't destroyed by the tsunami. It was destroyed by power outages that prevented cooling systems from functioning. The backup generators were flooded, external power lines were down, and within hours, 3 reactors melted down. But here's the truly bizarre part: there are over 400 nuclear reactors operating worldwide, many in areas prone to natural disasters or aging electrical infrastructure. A cascading power failure hitting multiple nuclear facilities simultaneously could create radiation disasters that make Chernobyl look like a minor accident. Number 7. Global financial markets freeze in real time. When major financial centers lose power, it's not just about trading floors going dark. Modern global finance operates on microsecond transactions executed by computer algorithms. When the power goes out, trillions of dollars in transactions simply vanish into digital limbo. The 2012 Hurricane Sandy created a brief power outage in Lower Manhattan that froze $18 trillion in daily global currency trading. For 6 hours, the world's financial system system was essentially paralyzed. Currency exchange rates fluctuated wildly, international payments stopped processing, and global banks lost track of billions in transactions. But here's the bizarre reality. Modern financial systems are so interconnected that a power outage in one major city can trigger bank runs thousands of miles away. When trading algorithms can't communicate, they assume the worst and automatically begin selling everything. This creates panic waves that spread faster than information about what actually happened. The most disturbing fact? The global financial system is designed around the assumption that power will always be available. There are no manual backups for trillion-dollar electronic transactions. Number 6. Food supply chains collapse. Within 72 hours, modern grocery stores operate on just-in-time delivery systems that assume constant refrigeration and computerized inventory management. When power goes out, it's not just about keeping food cold, it's about the complete breakdown of food distribution network. Refrigerated trucks can't function without fueling stations that need electricity for pump. Grocery stores can't process credit card payment. Warehouses can't track inventory. Distribution center can't coordinate deliveries. Within 72 hours of a major power outage, food shortages begin appearing even in areas not directly affected by the blackout. The 2021 Texas winter storm demonstrated this perfectly. Power outages in Texas created food shortages as far away as New York because national food distribution networks couldn't route around the affected areas. Computerized logistics systems aren't designed to handle major infrastructure failure. But here's the truly bizarre part. Modern agriculture itself is entirely dependent on electricity. Automated milking system, climate-controlled greenhouses, irrigation pump, grain elevator, everything stops when the power dies. A prolonged outage doesn't just threaten food distribution, it threatens food production for months afterward. Number 5. Communication network. Create cascading information blackouts. When power grids fail, cell phone towers have backup batteries that last approximately 8 hours. After that, entire regions go communication dark, creating information vacuum that breed panic and prevent coordination of emergency response. Internet infrastructure is even more fragile. Data centers, server farms, and internet exchange points all require continuous power and cooling. A major outage can take down internet service for millions of people, cutting them off not just from entertainment, but from emergency services, navigation systems, and critical information. The 2019 Venezuela blackout demonstrated how communication failures amplify every other crisis. When people couldn't call ambulances, coordinate with family members, or access news about what was happening, minor emergencies became major disasters. Hospitals couldn't coordinate with each other. Emergency services couldn't dispatch help. Banks couldn't process transactions even when they had backup power. But here's what makes this truly bizarre. Modern society has no backup communication systems. We've dismantled phone booths, analog radio network, and print media distribution. When digital communication fails, entire populations become instantly isolated. Number 4. Water systems create hidden health catastrophe. Most people assume water will keep flowing when the lights go out. They're dangerously wrong. Modern water treatment and distribution systems are entirely dependent on electrical pumps, filtration systems, and computerized monitoring. When power fails, water pressure drops within hours. But the real horror begins when backup systems fail and untreated water begins flowing through the same pipes that normally carry clean water. Without electricity, water treatment plants can't monitor bacterial level, chemical contamination, or system integrity. The 2014 Toledo water crisis was triggered by power failures at water treatment facilities that allowed toxic algae contamination to spread through the municipal water system. 500,000 people were told not to drink, cook with, or even bathe in water that had been perfectly safe just hours earlier. But here's the nightmare scenario. In major cities, power outages can cause sewage systems to back up into clean water supplies. Without electrical pumps, wastewater flows backward through the system, creating contamination that can take weeks to clear even after power is restored. Number 3. Transportation networks. Freeze. Civilization. Modern transportation doesn't just slow down when power fails, it stops completely. Traffic lights go dark, creating instant gridlock. Electric trains stop between stations. Airport navigation systems shut down. Subway systems trap passengers underground. But the real chaos begins with fuel distribution. distribution. Gas stations can't pump fuel without electricity. Refineries can't process oil. Pipelines can't transport petroleum products. Within days of a major power outage, even vehicles with full gas tanks become useless because there's nowhere to refuel. The 2003 Northeast blackout trapped millions of people in offices, subways, and airports, but it also created cascading transportation failures that lasted weeks after power was restored. Supply chains couldn't recover, shipping schedules were permanently disrupted, and economic damage spread to regions that never lost power. Here's the bizarre reality. Modern society assumes people can always get from point A to point B. When transportation networks fail, businesses can't operate, workers can't reach jobs, and emergency services can't respond to crises. Number 2. Psychological breakdown happens faster than infrastructure failure. The most dangerous aspect of power outages isn't infrastructure failure, it's human behavior. Within hours of major blackouts, crime rates spike, social order begins breaking down, and panic spreads faster than information about what's actually happening. During the 1977 New York City blackout, looting and arson began within 30 minutes of the power failure. Not because people were desperate for food or supplies, but because the psychological assurance of surveillance and law enforcement disappeared with the light. Modern society depends on the psychological comfort of constant connection, instant access to information, and the assumption that help is always available. When power fails, people don't just lose convenience, they lose their sense of security and control. But here's what makes this truly terrifying. Social media and 24-hour news cycle have conditioned entire population to expect instant information. When communication networks fail during power outage, the information vacuum fills with rumors, conspiracy theories, and panic that spreads through word of mouth faster than actual fact. Number 1. The entire global system is one coordinated attack away from collapse. Here's the most disturbing fact of all. Our interconnected global infrastructure is specifically designed around the assumption that power outages will be localized and temporary. There are no backup systems for global electrical failure because planners never considered it possible. But state actors and terrorist organizations have identified electrical grids as the perfect target for maximum damage with minimum effort. A coordinated electromagnetic pulse attack, simultaneous cyber attacks on grid control systems, or targeted physical destruction of key transformation stations could trigger cascading failures across multiple continents. The 2015 Ukraine power grid cyber attack demonstrated how vulnerable electrical systems are to coordinated assault. Hackers didn't just cut power, they systematically destroyed backup systems, communication networks, and grid control mechanisms. The affected regions were without power for months, not hours. But here's the nightmare scenario, keeping government officials awake. A coordinated attack targeting the electrical grids of major economic centers simultaneously could trigger global financial collapse, food shortages, communication blackout, and social breakdown faster than any government could respond. The most terrifying part? Shit! Such an attack wouldn't require nuclear weapons, massive armies, or sophisticated technology. Just coordinated targeting of a few dozen critical electrical infrastructure points could bring modern civilization to its knees.